Hello everyone, Ted here. Welcome to another video on SkinClub's channel and on skinclub.com. Now, for this one, this is going to be a really fun one. Obviously, for all of you, now you know the player break has already ended, the season has started, so tournaments are going right back at it. So now, I guess is the time for us to start discussing which are going to be the most interesting teams of the second season of 2025 and which are the teams that are worth looking into. And this is what I will be doing in today's video, not particularly with a lot of teams, but with one team that I think is gonna have a chance of redemption in the second half of 2025, and one team that I'm willing to say is ready to break its own curse. We're going to spend this video talking about Astralis. We're going to talk about Astralis with HooXi primarily. Obviously, we did a bit of an article about that around maybe a month and a half ago, but that wasn't a finalized, I guess, verdict on what was going to happen with Astralis, because we still didn't know if HooXi was going to stick around. We didn't know if the organization was going to go bankrupt. But now we know HooXi's here. Now we know Astralis is sticking around at least for this season. And I feel like they have a pretty strong chance of making a good case for themselves, being a top 10 team right now. So yeah, let's get right into it. Okay. So where we're starting with this one, obviously, for those of you that don't know, HooXi got announced as Astralis' in-game leader 28 days ago, which means that he's played at the moment of recording this video. We're recording this during the Fisher Playground being played out, and he's played only 2 maps as an official Astralis player, and that was a win against MIBR in a 2-0 fashion. By the time you're watching this video, he probably has played a couple more series, so we're gonna start looking into the future. But the good news is we're not here to be talking about the Fisher Playground, right? It is the first event of the season. I feel like I can make a strong case for Astralis even winning that tournament, but in the end of the day, this is more about the prospect of Astralis actually salvaging this entire year for themselves and finally putting an end to that miserable streak of missing out 5 consecutive counterstrike majors, which of course Cadian couldn't do, or couldn't get them out. So we're gonna start that conversation by talking a little bit about why I personally feel like HooXi deserve to get another opportunity. So HooXi is one of those in-game leaders that started their careers in a pretty unremarkable fashion, let's say. So if you were to compare him to someone else, I guess a Snappy would be a good comparison in that case. HooXi started playing with on teams like Ambush, Toxic. Obviously, those are pretty similar lineups going from organization to organization, but nothing too massive, up until 2018 when he joined Copenhagen Flames for the first time. Then he got removed, went to AGF, went into Copenhagen Flames the second time, got removed again, went through a couple teams, and then after that Mad Lions lineup with Acore in 2020 and 2021 and with Refresh, I'm pretty sure all of you remember that one, he went into the Copenhagen Flames where he was able to have his breakthrough as an in-game leader, making it into the PGL Major Stockholm 2021 and then the PGL Major Antwerp quarterfinals in 2022. So the reason I feel like HooXi is that type of a player that deserves to get an opportunity at a project like this is because he hasn't really had an easy career. It's not like he's been given a free pass into Tier 1 Counter-Strike and he's been a complete imposter there, not doing absolutely anything. You could look at some of the stats on G2 after, obviously, the time on Copenhagen Flames and say that he was dragging the team down. Well, let's try and remember what trophies G2 was winning when HooXi was there. G2 did win the Blast Premier World Final 2022, and G2 did win IEM Cologne and IEM Cologne in the same calendar year, which had never been done prior to that, I feel like. So, yeah, I think when you're looking at an in-game leader's performance, you can also look at the individual statistics and address the fact that at times maybe individually HooXi was unacceptable on G2, right? But then in the grand scheme of things, I feel like it always has been an overlooked component that when your team is winning events, even if it's not all of them, even if you're not winning the majors, right? And majors were a bit of a problem because they were just able to make the semifinals in Copenhagen, but that wasn't enough. You are still winning something. That means that this in-game leader is doing something right. And for a lot of people, the main argument would have been, well, yeah, but Nico and Modesty were there, right? So you have some of the best players in the world on your side. We can't give all the credit to the in-game leader. Then you're looking at what happened with G2 after HooXi left, or after HooXi got replaced, and you're looking at some of the people like Modesty going out and saying that they didn't necessarily want to part ways with HooXi at the time. It is a really weird tangent that we can go on about the decision making with G2 Esports and who is necessarily standing behind some of the decisions. I'm not going to do that right now because I actually like what G2 is building for this season. But just to focus a little bit on HooXi, I feel like it would be unjust for an in-game leader like him that had to fight for around 5 years to get an opportunity to play tier 1 Counter-Strike, then spent a couple years on tier 1 CS. He won Kato, he won Cologne, he won the Blast World Finals, not to get another opportunity after being removed for whatever reason he gets removed, right? So it felt a little bit silly, especially considering the shortage of Danish in-game leaders that haven't gotten through Astralis, and the fact that they were in a position where they had to get Cadian. You probably are thinking, like many people, and you probably would be right to say that they should have gotten HooXi in the first place, but at the time, I guess, maybe they thought Cadian was a better idea, didn't really feel that way, especially for someone that is used to being an AWPer and has AWP pretty much his entire career. The changes just didn't work, and there was probably a little bit of emotional baggage. So now that we've gotten a look at HooXi's career and how things have gone and why I think he deserves an opportunity, because it's not like he's gone through multiple tier 1 teams already and he's shown that he's an incapable in-game leader or whatever. I feel like we could look at the only complete event that Astralis played with HooXi. Now, having it as a bit of an asterisk, this was when HooXi was just a stand-in. He hadn't played since June of 2024. So when he's going into PGL Astana, and that was between May the 10th and May the 18th, he knew he was just a stand-in. He didn't know if he was going to stay, but he did realize that was his only opportunity to potentially come back into tier 1 Counter-Strike, because it had been a couple months since his last official, nearly 1 year, and no one was picking him up. So that was a great opportunity for HooXi. And instantly, the one thing that we saw was an Astralis that wanted to play, was an Astralis that looked like they were in the mood and they had the atmosphere. And this is a really overlooked factor that a lot of in-game leaders could contribute with, but are not really receiving credit for a lot of the times. And this is one of the reasons that, for example, a lot of people are talking about Apex and how he's able to get a hold of the situation on Vitality and how he's able to cheer everybody up, right? It is really important for an in-game leader to be the last person to lose faith and the last person to get out of line emotionally and behavior-wise. And this is something that HooXi, I think, is really good at. I've never seen him, and I don't think he's ever pictured himself as an authoritative leader, right? The guy that's gonna raise his voice and whatnot. But I feel like he is reasonable enough, and I feel like he is really good at managing people's emotions and being the mediator, if that makes any sense. And especially on a team like Astralis, where you have guys like Stown and Yabi that have achieved a lot already and have been the two maybe biggest Danish superstars in the last couple of years. Someone like Device, who's, I mean, in the conversation for the GOAT of CSGO, right? You can't say he's definitely the number one, but he's definitely in the conversation as well. And he was the closest one after Simple. So yeah, I don't think in a team like that you necessarily need authority, is where I'm going with this. I feel like you need mutual respect. And you need someone that's able to be the mediator, someone that's able to play with, in a good way, navigate around people's emotions and find a way to make everyone happy, essentially. And I think HooXi is doing something like that, obviously, when it's just one event, when it had been a really frustrating couple months for Astralis. It would be a lot easier for a new, fresh face to come in and make everyone want to play the game a little bit more. But Astralis went into that event, played really well, beat Odic, Pain, VP, lost to Spirit in the group stage, then in the playoffs, beat Navi and Aurora, and lost only to Spirit again in the grand final. So what we're getting out of this event, what we can get purely in-game out of this event, is first of all the fact that instantly, the fact that HooXi's in there means that Stair will get to actually play the game in the way that he wants to play the game. One of the main things that we're noticing early on is the fact that during PGL Astana, and I feel like this is something that's probably going to stick around and keep being like that, HooXi was the guy to go in first the most. HooXi was the entry of the team. He was the one to open up the space. And when you know that HooXi is going to be doing it when, you know, you've got some set rounds or someone needs to sacrifice themselves, that means that the others, in the moments that they feel like they want to go for a play, they will do it a lot more, right? It means that they themselves will want to be a bit more contributive. When you see that your in-game leader is throwing himself out there and he doesn't really care, he doesn't really let the emotions get the better of him, and he's doing it for the greater good of the team, and he's doing it for you specifically, you are, as a player, more motivated to give more for the team as well. So I think this is a really good example that HooXi's given up to. And I just want to clarify, this is by no means a punch towards Cadian and how he was doing it. I feel like it would have been it was a lot more difficult for him to go through that transition. And by nature, I feel like this is why the pickup was wrong in the first place, because obviously HooXi was not always like this, but he's been good at being the opener on T sides, well opener, the sacrificial lamb on T sides. CT side wise, he had some really good performances as well during Astana, even though if you look at the overall rating is below 0.95, which is I guess usual HooXi territory, but he did have really important maps where he popped off for Astralis and helped them big time. So one of the key things for me with this team is the fact that first of all, you're looking at this event with HooXi. Stair instantaneously gets to be much more of a pack player, gets to be much more of a guy that is not forced to just run out there and sacrifice himself, and we know how potent individually Stair is. So you want to potentially keep that guy for the second, maybe third fight. You want to let him lurk at times. There's really versatile rifles on that Astralis team. And obviously Stown now is living through his Blame F era. But Stair, Yabi, and Stown are all incredibly versatile riflers. And I feel like when you have someone like HooXi who's willing to just go in and say, hey, you know what, you guys have had to make a lot of changes throughout your careers. You've played different roles, but now I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, I will do everything that you don't want to do. And you can play the most comfortable Counter-Strike that you can and get the best version out of yourself, which is pretty much what every in-game leader wants out of his players. And we're not even talking about Device. I mean, at this point, I feel like Device can just play well on every single team that you give him. But then you're looking at Stown's individual performance, and this is for me maybe one of the most impressive things as well. Stown did play his second best event during PGL Astana, right? You're looking at everything else. The only other event that he played in was good was the Blast Bounty 2025 Season 1. Astralis finished 9/16, and he averaged a 122 rating. And then you go into Astana, he's posting a 119. He's taking a lot more initiative on the lurks, doesn't really look disjointed. That was one of the biggest issues I feel like of Astralis before the addition of HooXi, or well, I guess we're judging only by one tournament. So this is more like an educated guess for the future based on a really small sample size, if you want to take it that way. But Astralis didn't feel like they were on the same page. A lot of the times when they were playing with Cadian, it felt like the team was disjointed. At times, you could even say that it kind of looked like they weren't on the same TeamSpeak server, right? With HooXi, that didn't seem to be the case. People seem to want to play with each other a lot more. People seem to want to communicate and speak to each other a lot more. There is obviously that really important factor of the fact that Yabi broke through Counter-Strike with HooXi alongside him in that Copenhagen Flames lineup. So you're definitely looking at, and there was no bad blood there towards the departure time. So you're definitely looking at, first of all, an in-game leader that is much more versatile. Second of all, an in-game leader that does not have to give up a role that he's been playing his entire life just to be the IGL. Third of all, an IGL that is not that emotional and someone that could, I guess, control the emotions of the team and not let his anger get the better of him in tough moments. Fourth, you're getting still an in-game leader that's won Cato and Cologne in the same year and has played international Counter-Strike. And now that he's back playing with Danes, he's bringing in all that international experience in, and he's probably going to be a lot more comfortable communicating in Danish as well. And the fifth thing, you're bringing in an in-game leader that has played with one of your best players and arguably one of the most consistent Danish players in the last couple of years before, and they have been able to make it to the playoffs of a major together before, meaning that the atmosphere on the team is going to be a little bit better, meaning that people will want to be playing with each other a little bit more. So yeah, I feel like going into this season, there's no reason for Astralis not to be a contender, no reason for Astralis not to be a top 10 team. I honestly believe that for the Fisher Playground, and this is going to be a fun one because there is a chance that they will have played, let's say, 2 or 3 more games up until you watch that, before you watch that video. So there is an opportunity that I'm now saying this, and by the time that the video is out, they could lose to Tyloo or lose to somebody else. You know, this is always on the table. But as of right now, I feel like if you're looking at Astralis as a long-term project, this, in my eyes, is the most complete version of Astralis that we've had in the last couple of years, and I feel like this is the Astralis that should make it to the major. And I will go and say it from here on out. I'll make the statement now. This Astralis iteration is making it to the major in Budapest. This Astralis iteration will put an end to the suffering of missing out on 5 consecutive majors, and I honestly believe this is the moment. What would happen? I don't really know. I believe it will. I think it's a pretty easy, a pretty calm thing to say. I think is expected. I don't even see it as a hot take, but I am honestly happy that HooXi gets that opportunity because, as some of you might know, I am a massive supporter of Stair as well. I like HooXi. I feel like Yabi and Stown definitely have not been able to showcase their potential on this team. Device is always great, but Device needs a little bit of greatness around himself, and then he can be even greater. So yeah, I think this could be a really dangerous team with HooXi at the helm, and I'm looking forward to watching how they do. So yeah, let me know in the comment section if you think that HooXi will be the savior of Astralis. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. And as I pointed out, we did do an article on HooXi and his entire career and a really in-depth breakdown on why he could be good for Astralis around 2 months ago. So you can go and check it out as well. It's going to be on my authors page on SkinClub. But yeah, shout out to SkinClub for letting me record those time after time. I'm really enjoying it. Hope you are as well. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.